Hey everybody, this is Kohdok here, and Toy Fair 2017 just ended, but let me tell you, everything I saw was absolutely incredible. The weather was amazing, and the stuff inside was even better. I'm going to be having proper videos here for Lego, Tomy, Bandai, Playmates, Spin Master, Mattel, Playmobil. I unfortunately did not manage to get into the Hasbro booth this year, which means I had to miss out on the amazing line of dancing Groots. Oh god, I wish I could have seen that, but all of those companies that I just mentioned are going to be getting their own amazing videos. And it's not going to be like last year where I just kind of sit at the table here and talk about what I saw. No, we're going to be having interviews and press releases and product demos. It's going to be amazing. Now, talking about a bunch of the trends that's going to be going on and some of the smaller things, that's what I'm going to talk about here. I mean, of course, we have some anniversaries this year. We have Star Wars is 40 years old. RoboCop is 30 years old. K'NEX is 25. The Calico Critters Company is 50. Klutz, just like Star Wars, is 40. Aurora World was celebrating the 10th anniversary of their Yoo-Hoo and Friends line. I'm sure there are some other important anniversaries that I'm missing, and you're welcome to tell me them in the contents. But as far as trends go, the two most common things that were there were like the quadcopter drones. Like those were like everywhere, literally everywhere. Although they have managed to get very small and very inexpensive. Like you can see like camera drones that are like $100 or less. It's really cool. And the other one was collectibles. There's a real push for like smaller collectibles this year. Mattel in particular embraced a lot of that. But that's they're small, they're affordable, they're easy to do. So there's been a push there. There is also app toys, which were such a joke back in 2013 and that I've questioned in the past, have gotten sort of a new lease on life. There have been some really interesting ideas that people have been coming out with associated with that. Like Gmu, here's one robot here. A lot of companies, including Lego, have been making what are basically like robots that you get the instructions of how to build them on your phone, and then your phone turns into the remote control for what you just built. That is really, really cool. Another one is this thing called the Followgrams. It's on Kickstarter right now, but what it is it is basically an open source art teaching step-by-step projector. Like, you can program this thing with an SD card, or you can actually send it from your phone. It can convert photographs into traceable lines that you can use to draw pictures. You can also load up like step-by-step drawing instructions on there. And apparently they're looking to make that open source. So if you want to teach people how to draw things or teach techniques or something like that, you can build the programs out there and send them out for people to do, or you can try to learn by taking one of these cards and attaching it in to learn how to draw some things. It's going to be really interesting. I mean, there's already like step-by-step books and websites, so this seems like the next natural progression. I really hope to see where that goes. Of course, another thing in the connected toy business was Light Seekers, which is going to be part of my Tomy video, so I'm going to talk about that at some point. Another fun development in the world is, I'm sure you've heard of Perler Beads. They are a toy that is it's a bunch of little plastic beads that you set up on like a grid, and then you can iron them down to make them stick together. And for years and years and years, people have been using these to make like little art projects out of the sprites from video games. And apparently everybody knew this, but Perler themselves. So last year, I actually made a point of going to their booth and mentioning how people were using them to make sprites, and I said, you know, it might be a good idea to reach out to some other companies, and I'm certain I'm not the only one who said this, but lo and behold, this year at Toy Fair, and Perler reveals that they have struck a licensing deal with Nintendo to make official Perler Bead kits based on Mario and Legend of Zelda characters. This is going to be phenomenal for them. It is amazing. Like they said that the reception they've been getting has just been overwhelming. Like these poor exhausted guys when I went and visited them at the Perler Beads booth. And in fact, while I was at the booth, one of the buyers for the Nintendo World Store in New York City came by and said, "Oh my god, we are going to sell so freaking many of these." And the Perler Bead guys also made it a point to show me a business card of somebody from Capcom. So honestly, the fact that Perler has finally embraced this huge community that their product has fostered is going to start a new age for them. Anybody who was like intimidated by having to buy all of the beads to start, particularly with the more saturated color palettes of these Super Nintendo sprites, are going to have so much fun building the sprites now that they have easier access to a lot of the colors. Like they have like the small kits. They even have like some blind bag kits, but at the same time, they're going to be producing sets that are just packets of the beads in the colors from the Nintendo game. So you'll be able to create whatever you want. That is going to be amazing. Another amazing thing I saw is, hoverboards, those little two-wheeled things you can stand on and roll around in. Those were really popular last year. A company called Hyper One, at least I'm pretty sure that's their name, has created like a $99 frame that you can attach to pretty much every hoverboard in production and convert it into a go-kart. And rather than using your feet, you instead kind of use these bars that give you tank controls, and because you're not trying to maintain your balance on it anymore, you can actually go all the way forward and see just how fast these things can go. And these things can go really fast, and anything like this that can convert your hoverboard into a go-kart, that is going to be amazing. It's a whole new lease on life on something, because once you get tired of it, it then becomes a whole new thing. That's going to be really cool. Also in the realm of building blocks, Snappo, which is a little company I've worked with a couple of times, I've developed some models for them, have released orange as a color. I've, of course, proposed that that flesh tone be the next one they work on. Banbao, which was a company I made fun of for how their catalog was so incredibly generic, along with all of the other non-Lego brick brands. They're actually going for some important rebranding. They actually managed to get the license for Peanuts, Charlie Brown, Snoopy, all of that. They've created a new kind of fun military line where everything is all cartoony and they like shoot like gumballs and stuff at each other. It's like non-lethal warfare, kind of like what Splatoon did to the shooter genre. That's going to be nice. And they're also going into making green toys. Now, what they've made is something called bio-based, but what makes these interesting and contrast from a lot of green toys is that the plastic is actually made from the byproducts of harvesting sugarcane. So a lot of green toys that are out there use corn plastic, but of course that has a problem of affecting the food chain, because when you use corn to make plastic, then you can't really eat it. But the idea here is that it uses sugarcane instead, and sugarcane has a lot of leftover byproduct that they're using, so it's going to be really interesting to see how this goes. We'll see if we can get some on the show. It's going to be really interesting. Sloobon, which was a company I gave grief last time I had them on the show, was there, and they seem to be trying to get their act together. I messed with some of the blocks while they were there, and they seem to stick together better than the stuff I showed off on the show. We'll see if they can get me some of the more recent stuff to see if maybe they can be vindicated from the video I made for them last year. That was interesting. Another thing they have is every year at Toy Fair they have something called the launch pad, and this is the biggest launch pad I have ever seen, although part of that is because along with companies that are trying to make their toy for the first time, a lot of them are companies that are expanding or rebranding themselves. Like in the case of Volks, they are a company who works with some other companies, and they make sort of these things called the legend, the 5-star stories. That's what it's called, the 5-star stories. It is apparently a long-running mecha series that's similar to Gundam, only also a lot more complex and detailed. Like, Master Grade Gundams are like these guys' minimum. So they're trying to branch out in the United States. They've also secured the rights to distribute a kind of paint here. Apparently it's a very popular paint that, for the most part, is only sold by scalpers on Amazon, so they're looking to make more local American distribution for that. It's going to be really interesting. It's another thing I hope to see on the show. Along with that, and of course, there is our good friends at Aldi, also known as Alpha. I think they actually prefer to be referred to as Alpha these days. They were showing off Infinity Nado again, and for those of you who don't know, Infinity Nado are they're sort of battling tops. They're similar to Beyblade, but they're bigger, they're heavier, and they're more hardcore. So if these things ever hit stateside, they are going to be pretty cool. They've been having some trouble. We're going to see if they manage to get them stateside this year. I made sure that they would make sure that I was the first one to know if these things come stateside. I'm definitely going to look at that. They are also working with Eugenio Straffi on the toys for Regal Academy, which is Eugenio Straffi, as you might know, he's a big producer in Europe. He produced Winx Club and Huntic. He's produced a number of shows on there. But one thing that Aldi has actually done is they've actually apparently made a small studio in California where they are working on some things in an effort to maybe break more into the United States. Like, a lot of the Alpha/Aldi shows that are out there, are basically available free on YouTube with English translations. They have actually made an English translation for Blazing Teens 5, but of course they're all like Asian English dubs. They're all pretty terrible. They're all like the Jojo Dawang dub that we see all over the place. But it's interesting to see what they're doing. Some other stuff here. We have this, I saw this little block, this series called Lux Blocks. They have only one piece in the entire lineup, but you can make all sorts of amazing things with it. And in a real show of guts, they actually had, to show the structural integrity of their product, they actually made it so that not only were they showing off the products, but the tables and display cases onto which they were demonstrating the product were also made out of these bricks. So it's run by this really structurally obsessed guy. He's got a bunch of YouTube episodes about it. This is the basis for his model of diamond. So I said he should make one all in yellow. But also got some good stuff here. In the world of 3D printing, we've got a couple of interesting developments. There is a company that was also at the launch pad called EXYZ Printing. They have made, they have like a toy 3D printer that's like $250, and they're also making one called the Da Vinci Mini. It's another one that uses that spool of plastic, but it's surprisingly high fidelity despite being one of those. And they're making one that's a lot smaller. They of course have the $250 for a 3D printer, even if it is one that uses the spool of plastic, is still pretty incredible, and that is definitely something to keep an eye on. Also with Formlabs, which was the 3D printer I showed off yesterday, which is hidden under the stairs, and like I've said before, the best kept secrets in Toy Fair are the ones that are hidden under the stairs. They've produced a neutral gray resin to work with their printer, so if you were wanting something that had a more solid color to let you see how the light and the shadows reflect off of the detail, Formlabs has made a better material for that. I mean, the sample piece doesn't look quite as good in the neutral gray as it does in the clear, but it's still really good. They had some other sample pieces that all looked really, really great in this. So for professionals, this is definitely something to look out for. Is there anything else I need to talk about? No, I think that's about it for now. I'm going to be back with some more of those videos for the companies I mentioned at the start of the video. And until then, let's get to it.